Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, after trying to clear up a few of the powers that the Queen has and more importantly does not have, I had a number of comments that I thought I should probably tidy up. Now, one quick one is the so-called royal prerogative to be able to disband Parliament. Now, this used to be one of her powers, but a law was passed in 2011, the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, which removed it. So that might explain the disconnect between what is and what used to be that may have passed some people by. Hopefully that's that one sorted out. But a much meatier issue was the idea that having an unelected head of state is somehow archaic and not fit for the modern world. And I have to say that I disagree entirely. Look at me, the little royalist. It may come as some surprise to people that I wholly endorse the notion of a constitutional monarchy, and what I aim to do in this video is to explain not only why electing a head of state is pointless, even though I understand why republics do it, but also why there's a huge advantage in not doing so. So first of all, I get the impression that some people confuse the role of a head of state with a head of government. Understandable enough if you're in a country such as, say, the United States, where they are one and the same person, if indeed person is the right word to use there. A head of government is the executive leader of a main legislature. The legislature dictates policy, sets budgets, decide which laws should come into being, should be amended, should even be abolished. They decide what range of punishments judges should mete out when someone breaks the laws that they make. But all of those things have life-changing effects on every citizen of that nation and indeed every visitor of that nation. And so it is right that the people who form that assembly, the House of Commons in the case of the UK, are elected. I mean, I say the House of Commons, but that also obviously includes the Welsh Assembly, Holyrood in Scotland and Stormont in Northern Ireland, when it's sitting. It's also essential that the head of government be elected as well, and they are doubly elected in the UK. First, the only people who may be considered for the role must have been elected to Parliament by the people. Secondly, this MP must effectively be elected as Prime Minister by all eligible MPs in the House of Commons, though there's no formal process for voting on that unless there is some doubt. But what about a head of state? A head of state is simply a representative of a nation, home and abroad. They don't dictate or even suggest policy as part of their role. They also do not take part in deciding the status of the statute books or indeed any of the real mechanisms of government other than symbolically approving of them, as the case of a constitutional monarchy. In essence, a head of state is a diplomat. They are a nation's super ambassador. Now, when you're a republic, I completely understand that you would, of course, elect a head of state. I mean, what else are you going to do? How else are you going to appoint one? It's also understandable why a nation such as the United States would just fold the role into the head of government, because even they recognise that actually just having a separate head of state is pointless. But when you have an established monarchy, there's a huge advantage in not going down this road. Queen Elizabeth II, for example, has been in post for many decades. She was also prepared for the role for some time before ascending the throne. Not her whole life as such. She was not born to be queen, being the niece of the man who was to become king. However, the point is that she was expertly tutored in the customs and etiquette of every nation on earth. She's also now very well travelled and has met in private many other heads of state and heads of government. She is thus able to advise our own Prime Minister, who would not be nearly as knowledgeable. She can explain the best ways to approach certain people and nations in matters of diplomacy and negotiation. This would simply not be possible for an elected head of state, who needs no more experience or qualifications than any of the other elected buffoons that we have in our legislative assembly. So sometimes such a nation will get one who does your country proud, of course. You know, there are many elected heads of state around the world that their nation is very happy with. And sometimes you get one who embarrasses your country. But even in the best case scenario, they can't hope to have the experience and skills of someone who has been doing it all their life. Finally, some people point to the cost and privilege. Well, taking the privilege part first, I really can't agree with that. An elected head of state has way more privilege. They live in just as much luxury, get paid a bloody good wage and pension. They don't have to do it all their life, you know, and because they're elected, they can sometimes even be difficult and tell the government to piss off if they're being encouraged to be friendly to some of the worst people in the world. Her Majesty has to go where she's told, make pleasant conversation with who she is told, and push whatever brainless policies her government tells her to do. As for the cost, this was last calculated to be about 69 pence per person. Not a great amount for anything. And when you consider that most of that is spent on the upkeep of the buildings which belong to the nation and the cost of travel and hosting events, that would all have to be due for whatever elected chimp we put as head of state if we were a republic. Even that argument pales into nonsense for me personally anyway. Finally, there's actually the issue of political beliefs. Now, every political belief that it's possible to have is bound to piss off some head of government or even an entire nation. Elected heads of state will have inevitably expressed political views in their life, and that is bound to clash now and then with nations they wish to charm in their role as head of state on behalf of their nation. Now, take Prince Charles, for example. He's pretty outspoken as royals go. Not dissimilar to his father, though at least he minds his manners. But he has been very careful his whole life not to express political views that could be at odds with the future government when he's king. He also has decades of experience and on-the-job training for this important role, as has the next in line, Prince William, who's lost all his hair just thinking about it. You know, if the worst thing that can be said for any of the royals is they're not elected, then that I would say is a pretty good endorsement for the job they do. There is no clash between the head of government and head of state in this country. Because the head of state is not elected, he or she is not invested with a mandate from the people to act as a roadblock against those who are. So yes, I'm a big believer in having our House of Commons democratically elected, and I want more democracy. I want proportional representation, and I want all citizens of voting age to be able to vote. But there is simply no value in having people elect an ambassador, and huge benefits in the most important diplomat in the country being trained from birth and experienced their whole lives. So I hope you found that video interesting. Whether you agreed or disagreed, let me know anyway. And if you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification as well. Until next time, I'll see you later.